Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another round of World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Don Arlett. In 2023, EU greenhouse gas emissions from businesses and households totaled 3.4 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. That's here in Poland, of course. This represents a decrease of 7% compared to 2022 and 18% compared to 2013. According to data compiled by the European Statistical Office Eurostat, however, there is one piece of bad news for us in this data, and that is that Poland is in the infamous fourth place among the biggest polluters in the European Union. We'll talk about the reasons for this and state of affairs and solutions to help us reduce our share of greenhouse gas emissions with our guest here in the studio, Marek Józefiak from Greenpeace Poland. Hello, Marek. Thanks for joining us tonight on World Talks.
Good evening.
Now, what do you think, if we look back at these statistics I just mentioned since 2013 and, of course, since 2022, what do you think are the biggest successes in recent years and what are the failures here in Poland?
Well, certainly this drop in greenhouse gases emissions, it comes from mostly one source, that's electricity production. This is where we have some success, some progress. That also counts for Poland. Back in the day, right now renewables are really gaining traction, and the past few years this is something that we can be kind of proud of. In Poland, we've got it's one-sided progress. That is, renewables are in Europe, that is wind and solar, whereas in Poland it was mostly solar for the past couple of years. We kind of really lost these last 8 years when it comes to wind energy. There was this infamous law which kind of stopped things for a couple of years. Now it's slowly rebounding, but this effect could be much, much bigger. We need both. We cannot achieve, energy security and also progress in emissions solely by solar. We need wind. In winter, it is the time when wind is much, much stronger across Europe, and this is where we should be getting the majority of our energy. This is not the case yet, so this is something that we should do most catching up. There are several countries across Europe which have already either, stopped using coal or have a set date of coal exit. Poland is the only one across the EU which doesn't have even a deadline for exiting coal. This is something that needs to change. We cannot be in this kind of impossible split between coal and renewables. We have to pick one. This kind of decision really speeds things up. We've seen in numerous states that as soon as this decision was taken, things really speed up. The whole economy then is kind of saying, all right, this is the direction that we're headed, we're going to invest in it. If we don't have that, it's really hard to kind of push boundaries and set ambitious goals.
Right. Poland's been reluctant to do this the whole entire time, you mentioned, even till today. Yet I think we're all surprised based on the results that we're currently seeing. Where does nuclear come into this? Because I know this is something that we're looking at here in Poland. Actually, we're planning on building the first nuclear power plant. What are your opinions on that? And is this part of the solution to bring this source of energy into the mix?
Well, for many years now, nuclear has been playing this role of I would say, measure to postpone things happening, to postpone changes in the coal sector. This is something how PiS has framed it. The former government, conservative Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, they treated nuclear as a kind of negotiating tool with the European Union. They say, okay, we've got a nuclear program. There's no progress at all, but here it is. And the energy minister would say, well, because we're building nuclear, coal will still have to be in our energy mix up until 2030s, 2040s right now, because obviously there is a much of, things are going really slow. So if we're talking about bigger picture across the world, this technology is kind of stagnating. It's not gonna, the part of the energy mix, is gonna go down. If you think about what countries across the world are investing right now, we live in the solar era. I mean, if you look at the investments, more than half of the whole investments in energy comes from one source. That is solar. So this is how things look up. These are the trends. I mean, obviously, we might have a nuclear power plant, let's say 15, 20 years, but this will not help to solve our biggest problem. That is coal exit. In basically 10 years, all of Polish coal-fired power plants will be closed down. Just in December, just last month, Tauron, one of the largest Polish utilities, has said that they're going to close almost all of their power plants by 2030. And by 2035, the most modern units in Polish energy mix will also go into retirement. That is very, just a few ones that were built in the last 5-10 years. So things really need to speed up. Right now, only 1/3 of our energy comes from renewables. Obviously, that's a progress if you think about what it was like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or 10 years ago. That was still like when I was starting when I started working, it was roughly 90%. And now coal represents roughly 60% of our energy mix. That's huge progress, but still, we're lagging behind countries across Europe, and that also, it shows in our energy prices. That's becoming a really big issue for our competitiveness and for our whole economy, because right now we're subsidizing, for instance, energy in many, many ways, coal energy. This year and last year and this year, the Polish government will put roughly 18 billion Polish zloty in the coal mines. Then again, on top of that, you've got billions of zlotys which are put just to not increase the prices for housing sector. We're talking about electricity. So there are several subsidies that are put into keeping this system running instead of investing in future solutions. And it's, as I said, it's an impossible split to keep up. I mean, it looks like, you remember this advert with Jean-Claude Van Damme that was, going between two trucks. I mean, it's really impossible. We have to pick one. And for the economy, for the markets, it's very clear that renewables are the technology of the future. And also the next thing that will probably soar, just like solar has in the past 3 years, will be energy storage. The prices of energy storage has gone down by 90% over the last 15 years, and this is the technology that will really rise both in Europe and in the US. It's already been rising in China. It's been rising in Texas, in California. I think that this will be the technology of the next 5 years in Poland.
How to balance the economics of energy and provide cheap energy with the environmental impact. If we look at a country like China, China is responsible for putting on right now 90% or more of all the coal-fired new electricity generation. China is responsible for 30% of global emissions, while Poland, although fourth here in Europe, is responsible for just 0.69%. So is this something that we really need to be infatuated with in terms of the detriment to the environment? Or should Poles be looking at more the economic approach and what's more economic?
Well, luckily, both of these things are, they're both economic and they're both environmentally friendly. If we're talking about renewables, in the past year, we had, for the first time in history, we had the situations that steel plant industry was actually appealing to the Prime Minister of Poland with Greenpeace. We co-signed a joint appeal to the Prime Minister to free wind energy because it's cheap and it's easy to construct, it's easy to build, it's also very fast to build. So in a really couple of years, we can really increase the amount of this cheap energy coming from wind. Then obviously, if there is an excess of wind energy, we will be able to store it with the battery storage that is going to be built across Poland. So these are the things that are both environmentally friendly and economically, I would say, necessary. It is not only, we're not only talking about the energy prices, but as I said, energy security. We need to replace the 60% of our energy mix within the next 10 years. In energy sector, which is very cost intensive, that's almost a blink of an eye. That's like it's like 2 weeks. I mean, we need to do it now because there won't be another chance. If we don't build renewables, we will replace coal with gas. We don't have gas in Poland. We need to import it. Right now, roughly 80% of gas that is being used in Poland is already coming from imports. We do not want to, put ourselves in that position that we will be more and more reliable on gas. And nuclear has proven, to be it's just simply not reliable when you think about timescale. Roughly 3/4 of all nuclear projects across the world have got some delays. And Polish nuclear program is no exception in that regard. So, we really should focus on what will be the biggest factors of our energy mix, and that is wind and solar. There's no question about that. Also, Polish government kind of sees that vision. What's missing here is kind of, I would say, being fair to the coal communities in the south of Poland, especially in Silesia, and kind of putting things as they are. And that is that within 10 years, we will have to say goodbye to hard coal. We will have to say goodbye to lignite as well. These are two, by far, right now, the biggest sources of energy that are in our country. And well, that's really last minute to do it. There are European funds that can be used by these regions, but the government needs to really play a fair game, and that is to just simply put it out there. We've got 10 years. You're not going to be left behind, but we've got this time to kind of, move our economy in another direction.
Certainly, it's one issue the government continues, no matter which government it is, continues to kick that can down the road. Definitely a plan needs to be found to take care of the coal miners, to readapt them into other positions and what have you, for the benefit of us all. Well, Marek Józefiak from Greenpeace Poland, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it. And that concludes this round of World Talks. Thank you all for watching, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.